Welcome to this recording of Reincarnation Can Be Scientifically Proven. This profound discourse was originally delivered by Paramahansa Yogananda in 1926. We are honored to share his divine insights and timeless wisdom with you today. If one believes in the existence of a just God, then a belief in reincarnation can follow very readily, as the two concepts are really dependent on one another. But what about the skeptics and the atheists? Can the truth of reincarnation be scientifically proven to their satisfaction? Can the theory of reincarnation be in any way scientifically experimented with so as to furnish not only hope, but actual proof of its reality? Material scientists claim that they have not found any actual proof of the existence of a God, and hence cannot offer any proof of the existence of his just law, giving equal opportunity to all life to improve through reincarnation. To such scientists, the sufferings of innocent babies and other inequities of life seem inexplicable and point to the absence of a just creator. On the other hand, most of those who do believe in a just God base their convictions on belief only and have no scientific proof to offer to unbelievers. They do not dare, for the most part, to scrutinize or deeply question their faith for fear of losing it or of creating some social inharmony. They are not aware, in other words, of the existence of a scientific spiritual law that can prove their beliefs to be truth. But why should not spiritual law be investigated by the same methods of experimentation used by the material scientist to discover physical truths? This question was asked centuries ago by the Hindu savants, and they set about the task of answering it. Their experiments resulted in scientific methods that can be followed by anyone to discover the reality of spiritual law, and hence of reincarnation and every other great cosmic truth. Since the means of proof do exist, no one has a right to say that reincarnation and other spiritual laws do not operate until he has tried the methods and seen the results for himself. A doubting physical scientist is entitled to express his opinion, but it remains an opinion only, not a fact. In physical science, certain procedures must be adopted and followed in order to prove the truth of any given theory. Germs are not visible to the naked eye. One must use a microscope to detect their presence. If a person refuses to look through the microscope, he cannot be said to have scientifically tested the theory that germs are present. His opinion is therefore valueless, since he has not followed the prescribed rules for arriving at the truth of the theory. So it is in spiritual matters. The method has been discovered, the rules laid down, and the result is open to anyone who is interested enough to experiment. In the Western world, owing to lack of this scientific approach to spiritual law, the value of religion has been greatly diminished as a vital factor in the life of man, and spiritual doctrines are believed in or rejected simply on the grounds of personal bias, rather than as a result of scientific investigation. How were the spiritual laws discovered? How did the spiritual scientists, rishis of ancient India, discover these unalterable cosmic laws? Through experiment on the life and thought of man, in the laboratories of their hermitages. To find the truth of physical things, we must experiment with physical substances. So, to find the truth of reincarnation, or the passage of the same soul through many bodies, it is necessary to experiment upon the consciousness of man. These scientists of old found that the human ego persists through all changes of experience and thought during the states of wakefulness, dream, and dreamless sleep during one's lifetime. The cognitive experiences changed, the environment, sensations, thoughts, and bodily states changed, but the sense of identity of I did not change from birth to death. The Hindu experimentalists argued that through concentration on the self, through a constant, conscious, aloof, unidentified introspection or watching of the various changing states of life, of wakefulness, dreaming, or dreamless sleep, that one could perceive the changeless and eternal nature of the self. Ordinarily, one is conscious of his waking state, and sometimes he is conscious also of his dreaming state. It is not uncommon, during a dream, for a person to be aware that he is dreaming. Through certain methods and practices, one can maintain conscious awareness during every state of his being: wakefulness, dreaming, dreamless sleep, and turiya, deep sleep, the ever-awake superconsciousness, the unrestricted region of mind, beyond dreamless subconsciousness. Relaxation in sleep. During sleep, there is involuntary relaxation of energy from the motor and sensory nerves. Through practice, one can produce this relaxation during the waking state also at will. In the big sleep of death, there is total relaxation, the retirement of energy from the heart and cerebrospinal axis. By deep meditation, this complete relaxation may be produced consciously in the waking state. In other words, every involuntary function may be accomplished voluntarily and consciously by practice. The rishis of ancient India analyzed death as the withdrawal of the electricity of life from the bulb of human flesh, with its wires of sensory and motor nerves that lead to the different channels of outward expression. Just as electricity does not die when it is withdrawn from a broken bulb, so life energy is not annihilated when it retires from the involuntary nerves. Energy cannot die. It withdraws, upon the occasion of death, into the cosmic energy. In sleep, the conscious mind ceases to operate. The current is temporarily withdrawn from the nerves. In death, the human consciousness permanently ceases to express itself through the body. It is as though one had a paralyzed arm. He is mentally conscious of that arm, but cannot function through it. Medical records describe the case of a clergyman who once fell into a state of suspended animation. He heard everyone around bewailing his apparent death, but could not express his awareness through his physical organs. His body motor had stalled and refused to respond to his mental commands. After he had passed 24 hours in this state and was about to be taken away for burial, he made a supreme effort and was able to move. This instance illustrates the constancy of the awareness of I-ness, or personal identity, even though the body is seemingly lifeless. The rishis taught that one must learn to separate the energy and consciousness from the body consciously. One must consciously watch the state of sleep and must practice conscious voluntary withdrawal of energy from the heart and spinal regions. Thus he learns to do consciously what death will otherwise force upon him unconsciously and unwillingly. There is a case on record in the files of French and other European doctors of a man named Sadhu Haridas in the court of Emperor Ranjit Singh of India, who was able to separate his energy and consciousness from his body and then connect the two again after several months. His body was buried underground, and watch was kept over the spot day and night for months. At the end of this time, his body was exhumed and examined by the European doctors, who pronounced him dead. After a few minutes, however, he opened his eyes and regained control over all the functions of his body, and lived for many years more. He had learned by practice how to control all the involuntary functions of his body and mind. He was a spiritual scientist who experimented with prescribed methods for learning the truth of cosmic law. As a result, he was in a position to demonstrate the truth of the theory of the changelessness of personal identity and the eternal nature of the life principle. Those who want to prove for themselves the scientific truth of the doctrine of reincarnation should first prove the principle of continuity of consciousness after death by learning the art of consciously separating the soul from the body. This can be done by following the rules laid down many centuries ago by the Hindu savants. Learn 1. To be conscious during sleep. 2. To be able to produce dreams at will. 3. To disconnect the 5 senses consciously, not passively as during sleep. And 4. To control the action of the heart, which is to experience conscious death, or the suspended animation of the body, but not of the consciousness, that occurs during the higher states of superconsciousness. Follow the practices Bhagavan Krishna taught. The ego is continuously conscious of itself in childhood, youth, and old age. The embodied soul is uninterruptedly conscious not only of these states, but also of attaining another body after death, in the long series of lives and deaths that are the ego's alternations between the physical and astral worlds. By following the practices that lead to the 4 states outlined above, we can follow the ego in all states of existence. We can follow it consciously through death, through space, to other bodies or other worlds. Those who do not learn these things cannot retain their sense of personal identity, of awareness or consciousness during the big sleep of death, and hence cannot remember any previous state or even the deep sleep states during one life. By adopting the methods of the ancient Hindu scientists who experimented with such laws and who thereby gave the world a knowledge that is priceless and demonstrable, one may come to know the scientific truth of reincarnation and all other eternal verities. Thank you for listening to this recording of Reincarnation Can Be Scientifically Proven. May Paramahansa Yogananda's wisdom awaken within you a deeper curiosity for the truths beyond the material world. Remember, through spiritual practice and inner experimentation, the eternal nature of the soul can be known, not merely believed. Peace. Amen.